There is a full moon happening tonight that most Cancer horoscopes will completely undersell, and if you have been feeling caught between two versions of your life lately, this is the reason why. Something is about to get named out loud, something you have been circling around quietly for weeks. Stay with me, because the next 15 minutes will explain exactly what shifts and exactly what to do with it. Picture the sky right now as a stage with two spotlights. One shines on Aquarius, where a rare full moon, the only one of its kind this year, is illuminating your eighth house, that private, intense corner of your chart ruled by intimacy, trust, and shared resources. The other spotlight sits in Capricorn, where the moon in its daily transit moves through steady, grounded territory, giving you a pocket of calm right in the middle of all this intensity. And running underneath both, quietly, for months now, has been a slower rhythm, an Aries-based cycle affecting your work and your sense of status, asking you to be patient with progress that refuses to be rushed. Let us start with that slower rhythm, because it sets the tone for everything else today. In Western tropical astrology, this cycle touches the areas of your job, your studies, or the domestic responsibilities that quietly structure your days, and alongside that, your sense of achievement and how visible your efforts feel to the world. The nature of this energy is not dramatic. It is incremental. If you have stayed in the same role, the same conditions, the same holding pattern for what feels like too long, that is not a sign you are doing something wrong. It is actually characteristic of this exact placement. Many people navigating this transit describe it as a jumping-off point between who they were and who they are becoming, and depending on how much patience you can access right now, you will either take small, deliberate steps, or eventually a much bigger leap. Now layer in tonight's main event. That Aquarius full moon is not a background detail, it is the emotional centerpiece of the entire day, and its address in your chart matters enormously. The eighth house is where Cancer's usual caution meets something rawer, questions of who you trust with your money, your body, your deeper feelings. This particular full moon has been described by some astrologers as ushering in a kind of modern summer of love, echoing 1967, and the pattern it tends to produce over the coming year is not one direction only. Engagements rise. So do separations. Bonds start, and some bonds end, often around the same window. Watch particularly for the days around July 20th, as this energy continues to ripple outward through the months ahead. Here is where two very different traditions end up describing the same sky and arriving at a strikingly similar conclusion. The Western lens frames tonight as an eighth house reckoning, a call to clarify what is actually true about your shared resources and emotional debts. A more evolutionary reading of that same full moon frames it as your seductive, magnetic power reaching a peak, especially over the next 2 weeks while this lunation's influence lingers, suggesting that whatever clarity you find and trust also tends to show up as attraction, intensity, even a kind of charged presence you did not consciously turn on. Two frameworks, one underlying truth. Intimacy and honesty are asking to be examined together right now, and the examination itself is the invitation, not a warning. You may have noticed relationship conversations lately carrying more emotional weight than usual. Little things that used to slide past, suddenly feeling like they need to be said out loud. That is not you being oversensitive. That is the eighth house doing exactly what it does. If a partnership has felt like it is approaching some kind of fork in the road, tonight's energy tends to bring that fork into sharper focus rather than resolving it instantly. A conversation about trust, about what is fair, about who is carrying what emotionally or financially, can actually bring relief rather than conflict, but only if you keep the discussion anchored in specifics. Vague reassurances tend to fall flat under this sky. Clear numbers, clear expectations, a real next step, These are what someone under this transit is likely to actually feel soothed by. If you are single, the same magnetic quality applies differently. This window over the next 2 weeks is one where your presence may land with more intensity than usual. And if there is someone you have been circling, this could be the stretch where things either clarify or come to a natural head. New connections that begin now often carry more depth than the initial spark suggests. Here is the good news buried inside what sounds like an intense transit. This same eighth house energy, when it touches career, tends to show up as increased resourcefulness rather than instability. On the professional side, that patient, incremental Aries-based cycle continues quietly shaping your days, and this is where its slower nature actually becomes an asset. Rather than expecting a breakthrough today, many people find steadier footing by simply refining what is already in front of them: a project, a responsibility, a role that has not fully clicked yet. If you have felt stuck in your current position or frustrated by a job search that is not moving fast, this energy does not promise a quick resolution, but it does suggest the groundwork being laid now has real value later. Status and visibility build slowly under this influence, more like sediment than lightning, which brings us naturally to money, because right now, the same sky offering emotional clarity is also offering something unexpectedly lucky on the financial front. A significant solar alignment landing in the money sector of your chart today is being described by some astrologers as a kind of day of miracles, the sort of alignment that occasionally coincides with a raise, a bonus, or an offer arriving with unusually good timing. This does not mean money falls into your lap without effort, but it does suggest that if an opportunity crosses your path in the next day or two, it is worth taking seriously rather than dismissing. Combine that with the eighth house's focus on shared resources, and you get a day where financial conversations, whether with a partner, a boss, or yourself, tend to go better when you lead with transparency rather than assumption. Now, here is something worth sitting with, because it is the kind of detail that explains why today feels different, even if you cannot quite name why. This full moon is the only Aquarius full moon of the entire year, landing directly on your eighth house. At the same moment, an Aries-based cycle is quietly asking you to be patient with your career, while a completely separate lucky alignment lights up your money sector. 3 distinct cosmic threads, all converging on this single day. What that means practically is this: today is not really about one single event. It is about how honesty, patience, and unexpected luck are all asking to work together rather than separately. Most people will experience this as 3 unrelated moods: restless, hopeful, unsettled, without realizing they are actually one story. Take a breath here, because the next part is about you, specifically, not the sky. With so much emotional intensity circulating, your body and mind are likely asking for something simpler than usual. The Capricorn moon moving through your day offers an actual window of ease, often felt most strongly around midday, roughly between noon and 1:30, when small pleasures land more easily and satisfaction feels more accessible than usual. Many people find this an ideal stretch for solitude, not isolation, but a deliberate pause, time alone, that lets your nervous system settle after the eighth house's intensity. If you are drawn to the color pink today, that is a gentle, universally safe association. Some traditions link to this particular lunar placement, nothing more elaborate required. Some Vedic practitioners might also suggest broader remedies tied to today's planetary emphasis: mantras, meditation, or specific gemstones chosen for an individual's birth chart. Though gemstone prescription in that tradition genuinely requires personal chart analysis and is not something to adopt casually based on sun sign alone. What is universally safe, though, is rest. Emotional swings under this sky tend to call for more sleep, more gentleness with yourself, less self-judgment about needing quiet. That same need for grounding extends naturally into your home life today. If you have felt caught between old patterns and new possibilities lately, family conversations or a return to a familiar place may offer more insight than you expect. A previously postponed issue, something left unresolved for a while, may show early signs of movement now, slowly rebuilding trust rather than resolving all at once. In matters close to home, actions tend to speak louder than reassurances right now, and dependability, simply showing up consistently, often earns more genuine respect than grand gestures. Short trip, even a visit somewhere familiar rather than exotic, may provide the kind of closure or clarity that a long conversation could not. If travel is not on the agenda, the same energy still invites a kind of internal journeying. This full moon's placement in your chart of shared depths naturally turns attention inward, toward what you actually trust and why. It is less a day for grand spiritual declarations and more one for quiet honesty with yourself about where your defenses are protecting you and where they are simply keeping you isolated. For those who like a quick reference, your luckiest window today falls around midday into early afternoon. Pink carries a gentle, supportive energy, and the overarching theme of the next 2 weeks is clarity through honesty rather than force. So here is where all of this actually lands for you. Today asks for 3 things, and they are simpler than the cosmic drama might suggest. Name one thing you need from someone close to you, clearly, with real specifics, not vague hints. Give yourself that quiet midday pause rather than pushing through. And if an unexpected opportunity, financial or professional, shows up in the next day or two, take it seriously rather than second-guessing it out of habit. The sky tonight is not asking you to have all the answers. It is simply asking you to stop pretending the questions are not there. That, more than any single prediction, is what makes today worth paying attention to, and it is the kind of clarity that tends to stay with you long after this particular full moon fades.